a warm welcome. I'm really pleased to be joined today by Rory from the Rugby Sevens. Rory, could you give us a little bit of an overview of your role with the RAF?
Hi Maggie, thank you very much. Yeah, Squadron Leader Rory Wood. I'm the Director of RAF Rugby Sevens, and next weekend on the 21st and 21st of May, myself and members of the RAF Rugby Sevens team are going to be taking part in the Lancaster Challenge. But rather than just doing it all in kind of a broad, long run, we're going to have one big stab at it, trying to do 500 kilometers in 24 hours. So we're going to have a team of cyclists and runners, potentially swimmers as well. But we're going to be running around Ladyborough and Derwent Reservoir, the home of where 617 performed their training sorties before the actual Dambusters raid in World War II. You know, we always talk about the Lancaster Bomber and just what it did during the war. And of course, again, there's, it's been up for debate, Bomber Command, for example, that has only just been recently recognised. But everybody sees the Lancaster Bomber, what it stands for, in a really good light. But then, of course, during our development, there'll always be that kind of like what we, and again, probably going a little bit off piece, but, what we did in World War II, the bombing of Germany, just. So in terms of, for me, where does it string home? It's like, it's able to put an argument of what we did was right and justifiable under Bomber Harris and the command, etc. And it wasn't just that the Lancaster Bomber, there were other aircraft as well involved. But certainly as part of our, my development here, this was something that was very much part and parcel of our, right, okay, argue for and argue against. So they're very much like kind of, you could see it from both sets of lenses. But to that side with the Lancaster Bomber, everybody it's instantly recognizable as the Spitfire and the Hurricane. And I think, I do remember building a model, like, probably several models as a kid, and I think I've still got somewhere gathering dust, I think that the wife doesn't know about. And so I think, it's important, and I'm bearing in mind that from the RAF Sevens point of view, we took part in the Great Escape bike ride, which we did in 2019. And that was going from Stadagler 3, where we marked the 75th anniversary of the Great Escape. And then one of the destinations that we stopped off at was one of the dams in Germany on the Ruhr. And and again, pointing the fact that we were there just to see it, and then of course now where we're going to challenge in Ladyborough Derwent Reservoir to actually see the place where I've never been, to see the place where actually the 617 squadron performed their practice sorties before the actual thing. So it's marking time, and it kind of all brings to light really that that was only several generations ago. It wasn't that long that these guys were doing it. And bearing in mind that we've able to have, fully serviceable Lancaster Bomber part of the Battle Building Memorial flight still flying, it still brings home truth. So it's a very long-winded answer just to it, to say that actually the Lancaster Bomber there's a lot more to it. And although I don't, and what a great privilege it would be, interestingly, my grandfather-in-law, he flew Lancaster Bomber. Sorry, he was a navigator in the Lancaster post Second World War, and I was very fortunate enough to organise a visit at the BBMF and show him around. Well, not me show him around, but got one of the members of staff to show him around. And that was considering it was several decades ago before the last time we saw it. It's still very much connection to my family with that, but then also for me as a current serving officer, there's that real big connection with the bomber and what it stands for.
It's really interesting, isn't it? It's and for me as well, there's something about the Lancaster that represents all those different communities and people of different classes and from different walks of life that served on the Lancaster, and almost there's that real link today with the RAF's real keenness about the whole force and different people. And it really came across with me because my dad was a man on the ground in Bomber Command. He was in 57 Squadron, who's based at Scampton East Kirkby throughout the Second World War, and I met the amazing Charles Clark, who who was a navigator on Lancaster. It's amazing. And I said to him sort of a little bit sort of sheepishly, oh, because my dad died when I was 6, you know, so I didn't have those stories. And I said that to Charles, and I said, oh, it's lovely meeting you. You know, my dad was just a man on the ground. And he said, never say that, Maggie. We were one team and we all rely on each other. And there was just something about that that was so generous, but was also really meaningful for him, that it absolutely is about, you know, the whole force supporting each other and that everyone's important in it. It was really moving.
Yeah, and just in terms of when you dive into the stats that those guys, you know, had in terms of the percentage of, okay, we send loads of them across, but then the percentage of losses as well, that kind of hits home, you know, bearing in mind what's 55,000 of people lost, and you know, it's taken that long to then put some kind of remembrance of their valor and sacrifice, etc. But yeah, I just it does ring home that it was not just you know, those 55,000, it was a collective effort, you know, and this is where, again, you know, I bring it back to sport a little bit, that it is, you know, sport, team sport, you know, regardless, that, you know, although people there, you know, behind the scenes are very much integral to the whole, you know, team itself on the pitch. So when we come to do this challenge, we've got people, support staff, that are going to be there. Lottie, our physio, you know, willingly taking up, you know, time to kind of, she was there when we did the Spitfire 80K in August. You know, the fact that she was a physio was a perk, because she was able to, like, it was quite funny, like when you go to her and you're like, oh, you kind of know that she's got nothing that she can do or offer you apart from just it'll be okay, just keep going. And even though you're just kind of hoping, but it was quite something warm and comforting knowing that physio at the end to kind of potentially provide some kind of remedy to your failing legs was good. But no, I think to go back to, you know, everything with the, you know, Bomber Command and what it represents is, and to be able to do something like this, it's not just because we're kind of mad and want to do it. You're actually giving something back, and you're keeping the story alive, if that kind of makes sense. You know, and also opportunities like this don't really come, you know, particularly, and I say to, you know, my civilian brethren, they don't have opportunities like this to give something back, do something as bloody daft as we've been about to do, but then obviously for who we represent, and that's the kind of thing about unique about the RAF, having connections with the museum, and the heritage and ethos of who we are as people. Is fantastic, and that's the reason why, you know, me and 13 other people are getting involved in this challenge next weekend.
It was such a lovely phrase that you used then about keeping the spirit of those stories alive, because, as you know, everything we do at the museum is about telling stories, and it's been fantastic seeing the general public on Facebook who are taking part in the Lancaster Challenge, sharing stories about, you know, memories of family or stories that they've read, but, you know, really having that conversation and bringing that out in a, you know, really very sort of clear and tangible, but very sort of creative way in terms of some of those stories that they're sharing. Go on.
But global though, Maggie, like not just UK. Yeah, you know, because that kind of rings home as well. You know, the fact that, you know, the people who flew the Lancaster, you know, the Commonwealth and variety, and yeah, it's quite nice as well when you sit back and you see all these people post them from Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and the likes, etc., and just the reach and the connection you have, you know, from all, you know, the fact that the aircraft has got an iconic or global reach, you know, with it. So it's not just kind of UK focused, that everybody it's instantly recognizable from whichever nation. It's like, yeah, so as is the Spitfire. And again, I suppose that also makes you quite privileged and proud, not just to be, you know, British as such, but also again with what the aircraft represents and what it did and what it achieved. but the fact that obviously it has connections and stories attached to it as well, and families who've obviously had fathers, grandfathers, brothers, etc., that have flown that aircraft previously. And yeah, it must have a real good feeling of kind of pride when you look back and see those posts and see those people that are doing it, because they've got some kind of little small or large connection with that aircraft.
Well, I hope you as a current RAF officer feel that support that you're getting. I mean, certainly us at the museum have really felt that throughout the whole of the pandemic, the fact that people are engaging with the museum on that and showing that they feel that keeping those stories alive is important, as I think helped all the museum team actually come through it. It's sort of mentally intact as well.
Yeah,
very
sure.
Well, can you, because you were all absolutely brilliant, and it was so fantastic seeing you all come back finishing the Spitfire 80k. Can you talk us through the plan then for this weekend?
Sure, yeah. So starting on Friday 21st at 14:30, we've got two teams. We've got a cycling team of 7 and a team of 7. And the idea of, again, idea is 7s, is the 7 kind of represents the kind of the crew on the Lancaster. So there's a quite nice, neat crossover. And we thought, again, with the cyclist that, and again with the opening of the museum, that we would have a cycling team starting at RAF Cosford, and then cycling up to Derwent Reservoir and meeting the runners who would have already started off their run at the same time. So the idea is, we thought, well, although we don't know, it's like the Lancaster challenge was 80, 120, 150, 500. We just thought, well, why not just go a bit one better and just try and make it a bit more of a challenge and try and do 500 in a day if we can. It seemed a bit boring spreading it out. Why not just do it? And so I think what the aim at the moment is, so for the cyclists and runners to kind of all merge at Derwent and Ladyborough, and then we're just literally just going to run a couple of designated routes around the two reservoirs, and then come 2:30 on the 22nd on the Saturday, we'll stop, and then hopefully I've clocked at the miles, so we want to try and go home for a well-deserved drink at the end of it.
And you will deserve it. Think about it on your way around. And this, it is the second time that you've supported us. So, what is your motivation for taking part and supporting the museum?
Yeah, so no, good question. I think so. First and foremost, it's that we as a partner, we've RAF Museum are very kind to come on board and being one of our main sponsors for this forthcoming season, and hopefully long may that continue. And that's the kind of like a bit of, for your supporting us, we would like to give something back to the RAF Museum and supporting this challenge. But as you well know, with COVID, rugby hasn't really featured heavily. So now it's a case of all right, what to do, what to keep the minds going, and what's the next challenge. And being military people, we don't like to kind of sit on our hands doing nothing, and we always kind of looking. Certainly I am. For me, what is the next challenge over the horizon? So I think that's the kind of one thing is to, the success that we had in August last year with the 80k. Although we laughed and joked, never again, and we saw kind of opportunity with the Lancaster 80. Like, well, hey, why not? And we're bringing more people in from the wider RAF 7s community, and bearing in mind we've got 2 people that have recently left the RAF that were former members and players of the RAF 7s. We've brought them in as well. So the support staff and athletes taking part, we're numbering around about 17, which is so to think we're able to kind of spread the love as such with that is good in itself. And it's all a case of just increasing the message, increasing the publicity of the museum, bearing in mind that what you serve and who you represent, and particularly in these during hard times. And I think it's the right thing to do, really, to kind of support you in this endeavour and this challenge, and the right way of communicating and keeping the spirit of the Lancaster and for all what it represents alive.
How can the public support you then to support us, Rory?
Yeah. So apologies for referring to my notes. So yeah, we've set up a Just Giving website page. So justgiving.com/fundraising/Spitfires Run Again is the kind of is the link, and we'll be looking to kind of publicize that in the coming days, and we'll certainly be pushing more publicity through our social media outlets and supporting yourselves, and particularly on the day and throughout the challenge as well, where we'll be pushing more publicity through that.
Oh, massive thank you. And of course, we've been closed for 2/3 of the last year, and the museum's lost £3 million just in that year. We'll have to see how we pick up in the coming year. And the RAF has been brilliant supporting us. So, but every penny that comes from the public really helps all our learning programs continue, collecting programs, all those outreach programs in the community. So it's a massive difference that you're making. Thank you.
Hey, no problem. I mean, we managed to raise over £2,000 last time in August. So let's hope we go one step further this time around.
Absolutely. And do you know what? It's the morale as well boost that you give us as well, knowing that you, as you say, sharing the love, it really makes a difference. On to the next one, Rory, because you know we're not going to let you go that easily.
Yeah.
After this next one. So, of course, we've got the Spitfire 10Ks, and hopefully we'll be able to run them this year in person as well as online. So I hope you'll be joining us either at Cosford or in London this autumn, possibly.
Yeah, definitely. I think that'll be cracking to actually do something in person, as I mentioned earlier. It'd be great nice to get that kind of spirit as well, and just feel that buzz, and just being able to talk with other people why there and what the kind of, understanding, I know why we're going to be there and supporting you guys, and we have that connection being obviously current serving members. But what'd be really nice is to actually hear other people's perspectives as to why they're getting involved in the Spitfire 10K and the likes. And yeah, the more challenges, it keeps us motivated for keeping fit, I suppose. And yeah, please keep them coming.
And we all can't wait at the museum, because of course we had to cancel the in-person run last year. So to be able to do both this year will be amazing. I think we're in our 6th or 7th year of it now, and it's just incredible, the participation in that event. And some people do both, so they're at London and Cosford on consecutive days, so some people turning up and running both. It's just brilliant. And we have had a 74-year-old lady did both runs one year, so I mean, she really threw down the gauntlet.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be doing that for sure. I think after doing all these challenges, I think when I think I turn 40, I think that would be me. I think so. Which is only a few years away. My wife keeps telling me. So yeah, but no, fair play. And I think everybody who does those sort of challenges as well, I've got a reason for doing it. And I think with that, with the connection and what you're doing is, the museum, please, from a serving member, and I'm sure that preaching to the converted here, just keep on doing what you're doing, because we are a small service by comparison. We've only got a small history, but a really big one, which I think everybody will relate to with that and the connections.
It's so important, and so important. We think of everything we do at the museum in terms of telling that story of the RAF over its 100+ years. The point is as well of really sharing with the public in the same way the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight do. What we're also really wanting to do is share today's stories with the public, and making sure that they understand that there are the men and women of the RAF are out there protecting our skies 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it is your stories that we want to continue telling, Rory. Yeah,
no, and I think what I probably haven't mentioned before is that as a team, I said that we've got two former serving guys who are helping out, but the actual team, it's a mixture of ranks. So not only we have headed up by a few officers, including myself, but a couple of young guys who some guys based at Cosford who have just graduated from school there, and some mechanics who would have obviously be working on current aircraft now. So I've got that kind of relationship or similar how the crews would have handled etc. So we've got a real nice balance of risk of pilots themselves, and then obviously mechanics, and then a token logistics officer like myself, just heading the way. So we've got a real nice mix, and that's important as well. The fact that we're able to these opportunities. We are a one organisation, one team, and we are everybody from bottom to top has an integral part to play, whether it's for events like these or relations too.
So Rory, tell us, how's the team preparing, and are you ready?
Well, I wouldn't say anybody says they're ready for this sort of thing. And particularly if people are training for it, they must be mad. I think everybody's okay. I think we've had a couple of leading meetings. I think there's been a lot of nervous laughter with it all. We've got some very keen cyclists. So I think the cyclists amongst us, I think they'll be fine. But the runners, I'm not so sure. But if I probably say a particular mention, Flight Lieutenant Sam Randall. Now, he took part in the challenge in August. Vowed never to do anything like that again. But he's just been out in exercise in the States, in the desert. And he's just recently run 100 kilometers in a day. And you would have probably seen on a few social media outlets. I know RF Benson publicised his feat. And I know you guys did. But he's going to be... He's going to come and support us. We're going to see if we can try and drag him around, doing a few laps of the reservoir, although he says that he's just there for motivation. But he'll definitely, hopefully, with a bit of peer pressure, join us for the challenge. But yeah, other than that, I think people are preparing in their own ways. Myself, without the sleep deprivation of a baby, trying to get out and doing a bit of running. But I'm sure the motivation, you guys there supporting everybody else, will kind of get through. So no. But of course, as well with these lovely shirts that you very kindly have all put forward, and cracking 500k in 24 hours. We'll be sporting these, running these round, and again, hopefully, whilst we're there with the general public that'll be walking around, I'm sure we'll be able to showcase what we're trying to do there, and maybe try and raise money in other means as well. So the guys are really they can't wait for it, and I'm really excited.
It's brilliant. I'm so looking forward to seeing you off on Friday. And also, of course, as well as the Spitfire 10K in August, the team are going to be announcing soon our next big challenge for next year, which is going to be a Vulcan challenge. So very much hope that you'll be keen to join in that one as well. Maggie,
I'm sure, we've thinking Vulcan already. I'm thinking, well, do we do something down in the Falklands? Do we row to the Falklands? I'm not sure where that's been done. I've heard of people rowing across the Atlantic, but I think that would be great. And I think it's the guys who for their day job, things like this are all good initiatives, and people want to get involved. And people don't shirk away from it. And I think when putting down the gauntlet, to help out, and charity is one thing, but just being able to do, I would say the kind of the crazy ideas that we do, but the crazy things but for a good cause, and raising awareness for everything. And the Vulcan Bomber, again, another iconic aircraft, very got a global reach. I think we can certainly think of something crazy to do when that challenge comes around again.
Well, I'm sure there'll be lots of people out there tracking you online to see how you do and cheering you on. But I, for one, I'm really looking forward to getting back to see people in person as well. And delightfully, of course, we'll be opening our doors next Monday on the 17th of May to welcome visitors back in person. So it feels like a really joyful, positive time that we are looking forward to at the moment.
I'm really a bit envious because I'm going to be the runner. I'm not going to have anybody cheering me off, when I do that run. So the fact that the cyclists have got some kind of support there, it would be great. And I think Station Commander Cosford as well would be present, which is great as well. And raise the publicity and get back the RAF Museum to where it was before is all good, I suppose. Yeah, Maggie, obviously we're going to be taking part in the Lancaster Challenge. I was just curious as to whether you are going to be taking part in the challenge, and how many members of the RAF Museum staff are going to be joining you.
Oh, great question, Rory. We were really keen that the team joined in as well, and partly it was coming out of Christmas and that third lockdown. We thought it'd be a really great way to keep our people motivated and together, both mentally and physically. So we signed up any of our staff team who wanted to join. So we've got over 100 colleagues taking part, which is just brilliant. And we've had a bit of internal chat and sharing going on. People have got together in teams with some crazy names and really supporting each other. So it's been fantastic for our team to keep them motivated. And yes, I have taken part. And in fact, I think 3 weeks ago, I completed 617K, absolutely in honour of the Dambusters Squadron. I didn't run it though. Rory, I had a bad accident with a car a few years ago, knocking me off my bicycle. So I cycled and walked 617K. And do you know what I found? That I finished it about 3 weeks ago, as I said, and immediately found that that I wasn't getting out as much when I stopped. So I really had to remind myself, and knowing I was talking to you reminded me at the weekend to keep that exercise up, because it's been so brilliant. But as I've been doing my 617K, I've been thinking about those incredible people on Dambusters Squadron, but all our colleagues at the RAF who were there every day and every night supporting all of us. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Rory. Really appreciate it.
Hey, you're welcome. Thank you, Maggie. Appreciate it.